Welcome back to another episode of Recovering from Everything, a podcast for everyone who has ever had anything happen to them ever. I'm just going to bring you a little bit closer here. We're going to get a little bit nerdy today. Not as nerdy as last episode. That was a lot. We're going to talk about dopamine and how it works, and how you can get addicted to it, especially if you potentially have ADHD, which I 1,000,000,000% do. But also how chasing dopamine shows up not just in the way that many women will chase the drink, but also with dating, with any type of activity that you feel is rewarding or makes you giddy, I suppose is really like the best word to describe the feeling of like a dopamine rush. So, and some of it's fine and some of it's manageable and some of it is like a little like, and by it I mean like the activities or the actions you take to pursue the activity, which releases your dopamine. Some of those are fine. Some of it's fine. Some of it is incredibly detrimental to your life. So we're gonna talk about that. It should be like an alright episode, I think. Obviously, I'll have some anecdotes because my dopamine hits lately have been coming from, as you may remember from the last couple of episodes, that man who I thought I didn't like and then I had a crush on, and then turns out I don't actually like this person. I a few months ago came up with this basically like a 3-step taper plan to fully eliminate someone out of your life. So we'll be discussing some of the details of that because I do understand that as a woman that 1,000% has undiagnosed ADHD, I do chase dopamine. And so I've become very aware of where my dopamine is coming from. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how to, I'm basically in a dopamine detox right now. And it's going okay. And it's not the first time that I've done this with a person. But I like it. It's not overly pleasant, but I have found it is the easiest way for me. I have cut off people, aka dopamine hits, in the past like cold turkey, and it's been incredibly painful and incredibly hard. And I think a part of me knowing myself so deeply, I think I set myself up for failure and for relapse. I hate that word, but you know what I mean. So doing this sort of taper, I've done it 3 or 4 times now. It's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty good. If you have to get off someone, it's pretty good. I'm not sure. I could trademark this, but I'm not sure how it would apply to. I haven't applied it in other areas really of my life. So, if you are entangled with a person, and this entanglement does not make you feel good, but there are brief hits of goodness, it might be dopamine, and we might need you to access my taper plan. So I will be detailing that in this episode. It could work with alcohol also. I love a harm reduction model. Obviously 13 years into my own abstaining from alcohol because I'm an adult and that's what I choose. I didn't know anything really at the time. I was just I gotta stop, and I stopped for good. And it was only after that I was oh my gosh, there's a billion resources and thank goodness, because those truly saved my life. And I really pieced together something that works super well for me, which has since become my women's program. But it wasn't until I was well into my career, probably year 2 or 3, and I'm I don't know, I've been in this industry for just over a decade, I think. Um, I wasn't introduced to like harm reduction models until like way later. And then, and of course, as you know, the industry progressed, but also so did my brain, I guess, right? Because at the beginning I was like, abstinence is the only way. No, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I love it, but just because I love it doesn't mean someone else has to love it. And so, um, yeah, a harm reduction model, which those two words next to each other sound fancy, but it's literally just like ways to reduce harm. So this is where tapering off alcohol can be really helpful and also not crazy dangerous, which I realized in my career. Someone who consistently drinks alcohol, stopping cold turkey is so dangerous. And so there's like different medicate. You can stop cold turkey, but this is something like I would for sure loop in your doctor if you've been drinking big quantities for a long amount of time, very consistently. And loop in your doctor, let them know what's up, because there could be, for those first few days, to stop your brain from going into like real overdrive and you having a seizure. Not that I'm fear mongering, but for some people this is like a reality, or from having not just a seizure, but from having like really severe withdrawal symptoms, which you might remember from some of the other episodes, is like hallucinations, like auditory or visual hallucinations, but also picture like the worst hangover you've ever had in your life, but also the emotionally crippling knowledge that you are never going to drink. Like it's a mocktail for disaster. Can be. Hallelujah. I just stopped, I suppose, and was like, oh, I got to figure this out now. Like, how do I stay stopped? Because anyways, it wasn't until much later in my career that I was like, oh, there's harm reduction methods, and there's also medications, and then there's also like all these forms of therapies that you can also incorporate. And so truly, my ladies are getting like the best of the best with me here, because I worked in the industry for so long. Like, thank God I hadn't started my own program right at the beginning. It honestly would have probably reeked of like AA and like 12 step. Be like, you have to stop. The only way is to stop. You just make a choice and then you stop. Like, thank goodness. So anyways, dopamine is a big part of it. And we touch on it a little bit in my women's program, but we more so are focused in incorporating like nicer ways to treat ourselves, and like just sort of authentically doing things that we want to be doing, and et cetera. Anyways, so dopamine should be good. Let's get into it. What is dopamine? What is dopamine? It's a word that gets tossed around, I think, a lot. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter, which means it gets released from one thing. It's a chemical and it goes boop, 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 and then goes into another thing. So, um, it drives, motivation, your perception of reward, and learning. So, your thirst for knowledge. So there's kind of like three key players in the brain working at the same time. Your ventral tegmental area, the VTA, it's kind of like a dopamine sort of factory. Your nucleus accumbens, which is your pleasure or reward center, and your prefrontal cortex, the front of your brain that's in charge of your like executive decision making, impulse control, and emotional regulation. I'm pretty sure I have a whole other video. I think it's actually it's on my Instagram or my Facebook page. You can find it. It's somewhere. It's honestly probably like 2 years old at this point, but the comments were like, this was the most helpful thing I've ever heard in my life. Anyways, so first thing you should note is that alcohol, consistent use over long term, really impacts on your prefrontal cortex. So your decision making, emotional regulation, and impulse control are really affected. So if you are at an if you are at an age now where you notice those things are unsatisfactory or unacceptable to you, it kind of makes textbook sense why you are making poor decisions. You can't control your impulses, and it feels like your emotions are all over the place. If you are a middle-aged woman, mix in perimenopause or menopausal symptoms where your hormones are absolutely haywire. Like if you are like a bit of a disaster right now, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Anyways, okay, so dopamine, you have to sort of think of it more as like anticipation juice rather than like a pleasure or reward juice. The dopamine, so we always talk about getting a dopamine hit of something when we've done something, right? Like gambling, sex, dating apps, getting a text, drinking, whatever. That's not actually when the dopamine is the highest. Your dopamine spikes in anticipation of those things. So knowing that you are about to receive it or knowing that you are about to do something to get that, that's when your dopamine is the highest. We love this chemical, okay? We will do what it takes for this chemical, this neurotransmitter. You get a dopamine hit when you do like complete the action or receive the thing, but it is the highest in anticipation. Um, so if you're really struggling with yourself to explain your cravings, um, or when you get done work, you're like really looking forward to that first glass. Yes. The answer is yes, that's completely accurate because your dopamine is spiking in anticipation of your first drink. Um, Something that's super common for women is women who drink at home alone. So often they will let their families go out without them, or um their husbands, or oh no, you go ahead, like I'm just gonna hang out at home and have a quiet night in or whatever. The dopamine spikes because you know that you are being left alone, and when the cat's away, right? And you know that you're going to be drinking more. You also know that you can kind of be more open and free about it. So that's kind of like that's the dopamine. That's the feeling that you are experiencing is the dopamine spike of anticipating what is going to happen. So a sort of regular relationship with dopamine in any sort of the natural cycle of it basically is you get the spike from something, you feel satisfied, and then you return to your baseline of just regular dopamine production. um Things will pop into your day that will spike it, and you haven't necessarily intentionally sought out to spike your dopamine. So a lot of screen time, getting validation on your social media, getting texts from people, um alcohol, the after work drink, end of day drink, whatever. It depends on what it is for you. Have like a bird's eye view of just the things that like consistently pop into your day and make you feel like good, and see if for you it makes you feel that good that you can qualify that as like oh, I'm probably getting a dopamine hit. Like this is really true for like obviously the women I work with are like high achievers and high functioners, and they're very like do. And receiving praise or receiving some sort of like accreditation or um like those things cause them dopamine spikes, and like they work really hard in anticipation that the validation is coming. So If it doesn't come, it's incredibly hard for them emotionally, because they haven't received that hit. Or if for some reason they are retired or they are off work and they're not getting any more that consistent validation of their hard work, it's incredibly painful. It is incredibly painful. It feels like dopamine withdrawals. So something to kind of keep in mind. So the way that many of us will chase dopamine, um, with alcohol, like we know how good that first glass is. We will do whatever it takes to get that first class, that first glass. I know a bunch of the women, a handful of women have said this same thing to me, is that they'll get in their cars and they'll go to pick up wine immediately after work. And that's a very real sort of like ritual that it takes a lot of work for them to break out of it, because the dopamine hit in that car ride is so strong. um it's really, so it's not that we are stopping you from buying alcohol, it's that we are now asking you to not receive your dopamine hit in that car ride. And again, it's not necessarily eliminating the wine that is the hardest part. It's that rush. It's the excitement, it's the thrill, it's the flood, like the chemical flood on your brain. That's what we're working away from. And I'll talk a little bit obviously about what we're kind of replacing that with, but um it's just something that you need to understand about you or about like a loved one. Um it's asking someone to cut out the end result. You have to consider the process of getting there. You like, there are a million steps, a million red lights and stop signs and left turns and signaling lane changes and a million thoughts and whatever. Uh Chemically, there's a lot of stuff happening. You can't just be like, you know, I need to stop going to the liquor store, I need to stop grabbing wine or the grocery store or whatever. You you have to look at everything in between, from you, finishing your day to that first glass. There's a lot happening there. And physiologically, there's a lot happening there. But also, um, emotionally, what's going on in your head, what had happened that day, like what was your childhood like, that this is like a routine, like just there's a lot, there's a lot. So that's a lot of the work we do right at the beginning, is the a lot work. um Something to also be very conscious of is Something to also be very conscious of is the dopamine is it's variable, and the amount is variable. So something that used to give you a rush of dopamine in the past, you could still be chasing that same dopamine hit, but the novelty has maybe worn off. And so it doesn't make you as excited anymore, yet you are still chasing that feeling in something that is no longer giving you that feeling, yet you are still chasing it. So obviously this happens with the way that we drink, the amount that we drink. This happens with the people that we're trying to date. Um, that like those like little bursts of good don't feel as great as they once did, or they happen like not as frequently as they once did, but we are still hoping that they will. Um, so that's something to consider. The second thing to consider is the down regulation of this. So really frequent dopamine hits are going to reduce your receptors sensitivity to it. So you need, this is how tolerance works, right? You need more to feel normal, like your baseline has changed. And a lot of women that I've spoken to over the years, even a lot of drug users, they're not doing it to get drunk or to get high or to catch a buzz. We're drinking that much or using that much to feel normal. Um, so obviously I don't drink anymore. For me, as many of you know, some of you know, I don't know, maybe you don't. Um, I have re-entered the dating scene as a couple of months ago. And so I'm back on all the dating apps. And the swiping and the matches and the compliments like were so great, right? Honestly, a part of me was like, thank God I still got it. But it was just like these little dopamine hits. Like I had been sort of starved of that for many months. Like I did not start dating again for a long time after my last relationship. So it felt great. Little dopamine hits, little this is so exciting, this is so fun. When I tell you that I am so sick to death of it, like it is it's giving me nothing anymore. It's giving me nothing. Am I still on the apps? Yeah. Why? Why? It's so boring. What a waste of my time. No, now, I mean, I literally went from dating with zero intention, dating. I went on a couple of dates. I hate everybody, not surprisingly. Um, whatever whatever dopamine spikes I was getting, I'm not getting those anymore. I think maybe a little part of me is still chasing that. Um, but I consider myself lucky that I'm not feeling the pain of a lack of dopamine from accessing those dating apps. I am lucky because I have gone through pretty excruciating like dopamine withdrawals before. And so the fact that I'm just kind of like, meh, I'm sort of bored with it. I'm kind of like over it. I'm considering myself very lucky because yeah, I know how difficult the down regulation can be. So other kind of like real life loops would look like wine o'clock, for example, that anticipatory first drink at the end of the day. And I say first because it's the first. um, that, you know, many people will qualify that as like a routine or as a habit, but there is a most likely, more than likely, a chemical component that is driving that. Shopping is a good one. Uh, adding things to your cart, right? It's not necessarily the delivery of the items, it's adding things to your cart. Scrolling, getting likes on social media. Also important if you are a woman who has been diagnosed with ADHD or suspects or has some of the symptoms of, look into it. Like it's understanding that I most likely have this has truly, truly changed my life for the better. But part of it is that ADH brains have a lower baseline dopamine level and weaker receptor signaling. So we will work so super hard to chase those dopamine hits, and they also have to be far bigger than the average person, because our receptors like, is it in yet? No, that was such a good joke. Sorry. Our receptors are like, is it happening? Or yeah, we got like a little bit, but like, I'm not really feeling it. No, is it in yet? It was actually the perfect way to describe that. Yeah, our weak receptors are wondering if it's in yet. So what this looks like, or what this could look like for you, is like boredom, like having nothing to do, being alone with yourself is so painful. There's nothing there to like stimulate, validate, reinforce. So that can be really hard for women. We are also like constantly novelty seeking, new projects, new hobbies, new people, new music, new movies, new music, new movies. That's me. Yeah, new relationships, and then just being like, I'm sick of them. This is specifically for like ADHD symptomatic women. Um, when you find something that gives you a dopamine hit, you will repeat that. You will repeat the ever living shit out of that thing. Like when I find a song that I like, that's all I'm listening to for 3 days, like over and over. Just squeeze out every last drop of dopamine from that song or person or movie or whatever. We can also have difficulty moving toward future goals. And so like sometimes I'll talk to women and they'll feel so hopeless about, like, I'll have them picture their future, and what their relationship with alcohol looks like in the future ideally, and where they want to be living and what they want their relationships to look. And they either like can't, or it's really difficult for them to picture uh their future in like a realistic way, because the like instant ping of today is far more satisfactory, far more interesting, engaging for them. Like working toward a future can't necessarily compete with getting in your car after work and driving to the liquor store. Thinking about that is a dopamine hit, thinking about the future is not. So naturally it would be difficult to move toward a future that doesn't necessarily give you the same chemical rush that driving to the liquor store does, right? It obviously. And like for ADHD women, but also for many women, alcohol will feel like either relief or stimulation, or both, frankly, like all in one. So no wonder you keep it around, right? I would keep it around too if it didn't threaten to blow up my whole life. And then just like a couple of other things, like I work with a middle-aged demographic, so 45 to 63. And hormones are a main character for some of these women's lives. Their estrogen is fluctuating, their progesterone is fluctuating. This can intensify cravings. This is like and I talked about it in the other episode, so I won't go too far into it, but like it affects your sleep, it affects your mood. We have a solution. We have a solution. If I can't sleep, I'm having a glass of wine. If I'm moody, if I'm happy, if I'm sad, if I'm grumpy, angry, whatever, like we already know how to like cure this. So, um, like, what do you mean now I need to think about eliminating it from my life? Like, yes, it's a difficult, there's a lot of hurdles that we have to get through. Not to mention social rituals, girls' nights, mom wine culture, wine o'clock, like just all the social norms, all the advertising, all the advertising of making alcohol a social norm. Like there's a lot. So there's also that those like components that the like sort of like societal components plus the physiological, oh, you're about to be in dopamine withdrawals. It's like it's not easy. So by the time, 5 o'clock rolls around and you're like, yeah, I earned this glass. It's like there's been so many things funneling you toward your first glass. Okay. As promised, my dopamine taper plan. Again, this works with people on social media. This is what I do. If I know that I am uncomfortable in a relationship, in any sort of like connection. Again, this is I have so far only applied this to my dating life. Not even dating, talking stages to men. Big air quotes on that. Um if I'm like what would be best for me is to eliminate this person from my life. What I do is I look at the parts of my day that this person has consistently given me a dopamine hit. So, for example, posting on my Instagram stories, I can see who's viewed it. I get a dopamine hit from that, right? It like I do. So that is the first place that I start. I have to start depriving myself of dopamine. So I think it's like it's pretty common in like your group of friends to be like block them, delete them, get them out. But it's like that is so painful for me and it's so painful for like other people. So I don't often advise a cold turkey situation with anything. I do like a taper plan for things. Some things, most things. Um I tapered myself off of antidepressants, obviously under the guidance and supervision of my doctor. But her initial taper plan for me was very short and like quite aggressive. And I was like, let's slow it down and let's double that time because I don't think it's necessarily in anyone's best interest to be emotionally and psychologically and physically fucked. So if we could decrease the fuckedness of something, like let's do that. Let's set you up for success, not, oh my God, this hurts too much. I have to go back to what I know. So I apply this to people, to boys that I need to eliminate from my life. Now, I've done this 4 times. Okay. The first thing I do is I block them from my stories. So again, this has nothing to do with any sort of like I'm manipulating them to like miss me or like whatever. I have to detach from whatever their fucking experience is. It's none of my business. I'm only concerned about myself. And I know that I'm getting a dopamine hit seeing your stupid little Instagram like profile pic on my stories list. So I gotta start depriving myself of the dopamine hits. So I block them from my stories. Okay. It's um it's difficult because I have been receiving these dopamine spikes so consistently and like multiple times a day. But I know that that person is still around in my orbit, and for me that is comforting. I'm not reaching out to these people. Like, but I know that like in theory, I'm not going cold turkey. And that provides a little bit of like relief and stability for me. And I love that for me. Eventually, if there's no interactions or anything, which there hasn't been with any of them because they don't give a shit about me. They are just, for whatever reason, the source of my dopamine. As an ADHD woman, like, it's not like I'm not in love with these people. It's not that deep. They've literally just, my brain, for whatever reason, was like, pew, dopamine from some dude. It's not them. It's not them. It's my gorgeous brain. So if there's been no communication, which there most likely is not, um, I but that's also a big one, is no communication. So no chasing dopamine when it comes to these people, because the 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 down regulation part of the dopamine, and the tolerance part of our relationship with dopamine, is going to indicate that I will almost 100% not get the amount of dopamine that I'm looking for, which feels like disappointment, which feels like crushing hurt feelings and low self-esteem. So I understand that, and you need to understand that. Like, you can seek it again from this person, place, or thing, but because you've sort of like done big dopamine hits with that person, place, or thing before, it's not going to satisfy you as much. You're chasing like a ghost, basically. So you need to understand that, and I understand that. So I don't reach out. There's no messaging. There's no miss you. How are you? What's going on? There's no meme sending. There's nothing. It is like I have to be radio silent, because I know that I am setting myself up to feel very disappointed, because I the my receptors will not be getting the amount of chemicals that they need. That's all that's happening. So if you are someone listening to this that I had a crush on, let this humble you that it's me and my brain against you. It's me and my brain against you. I gotta wrap this up. I gotta hop on a call soon. So, okay, step one, block from stories. Step two, no communication. You can still, their little Instagram icon will pop up from time to time, or if it's on Facebook, you'll kind of see what they're doing. You can't follow those trails, okay? You can't do it. Third step, whenever you are ready, and it's going to take a while for you to establish a baseline of dopamine without this person contributing to it, and that's fine. Whenever you are ready, delete this person. Delete this person, because there is no telling when your brain is going to be like, we haven't had dopamine for a while. Remember that guy? Let's try to get some from him, like a freaking drug dealer or something. So delete. This is like a protection thing too, because this person has proven repeatedly, all day, every day, that they they genuinely do not care about you. And that says nothing about you, and it says nothing about them. It's just like, not everybody's meant to care about everybody. So delete them. There's no, why are we letting people stay in our orbit? That's not, who cares? That's not a thing. That's not a real thing, especially when they're not even giving you dopamine anymore. Goodbye. That's my 3-step taper plan to eliminate a person from your life. But it does come with a very deep understanding that I had to learn the hard way, the hardest way, that my gorgeous, potentially 100% ADHD brain responds to and chases dopamine very quickly. And I need to use harm reduction practices on myself to reduce harm that I will potentially inflict on myself. So this is not, yeah, they can be rude and annoying or whatever, but it's like I'm the one that's like, more. So harm reduction practice is on yourself. And that is my 3-step taper plan to eliminate a person out of your life. It's worked for me. I'm in my 4th person, and I really like it. I do like this for me. It's a gentle taper. 4 people and 1 round of antidepressants a couple years ago. But understand how you are like receiving your dopamine hits, when and where, and what harm reduction practices and like very small, slow, easy, gentle steps can you start implementing in your day-to-day life. And this is also assuming that, and this is an assumption, and this is bold of me to assume, so I will sort of asterisk that, is that assuming that you want what's best for you, and assuming that you are a woman who wants better for herself. You can start implementing some things to start your withdrawal from dopamine, but to get yourself back to a more normal baseline. One of the things is finding dopamine from other things. Like I told you, for me, it's music. Sometimes it's like movies, like I'll pick a director like a Tarantino or like the Coen brothers or Christopher Guest. I love a Christopher Guest binge, like a director that, and it'll just be like I'll just hammer out all these movies. And like um music is a big, big, big one for me. When I am at like an all-day festival, I am at my absolute highest, like absolutely untouchable. There's nothing that can compare to all the dopamine that's just like flooding my brain all day. Cold plunging, I cold plunge. That is a billion times dopamine that you can ever get from anything, and it lasts for like hours. So there's different things that you can do to get dopamine in a way that isn't ruining your life. I'm not eating because I'm at home like crushing Tarantino movies. No, there's different things that you can do that aren't detrimental to your life, but there's also different things that you can do to start like withdrawing and detoxing and getting like establishing a new normal and a different baseline for yourself. So for example, if you are the 5 p.m. wine drinker or something, go for a 10-minute walk before, get some of that energy moving around, delay it by 10 minutes. um Figure out what it is you like to do, like what I don't know. Someone the other day was like, "What are your hobbies?" I'm like, "I don't necessarily have hobbies, but there's like a million things that I like doing. Art galleries, museums, traveling to different cities, like learning the transit system in a new city." Figuring out what it is that you actually like, truly like, not things that you feel like you should like, but like, what do you actually like doing? Do that. And you can also I do this, or have a worksheet for my women, but you can track your cravings. So like get the time like written down, and sort of like map out the context of your day there, and just come up with a slightly different plan for yourself. Not cold turkey, not big massive changes right off the bat necessarily. But something slightly adjusted with your best interest in mind and your brand new understanding of how dopamine works. Thank you for listening to another episode of Recovering from Everything, a podcast for everyone who's ever had anything happen to them ever, including receiving dopamine hits from people, places, or things that really didn't deserve to take so much of your attention. And you are now strongly considering putting yourself through a dopamine detox. I'll see you soon. I love you. Bye.